I'm Rob Riggle.
I'm Darren Leader.
Welcome back to Riggle's Picks. With us as always, Gary and Claire in the booth doing what they do, which nobody really knows.
They don't do anything.
But I'm not even worried about them right now. They can be smoking grass and living the fast lane lifestyle that they live. I don't care.
Right.
They could be getting bottle service, which they probably are right now. But what's more important is who we have on the show today.
It's a good day.
It's a really good day. We have on the show a friend of mine, a talented actor and comedian. Mr. Jason Mantzoukas is in the house, guys. So
yes. Here's one thing I noticed right out of the gate.
Yeah.
As opposed to any other guest we've ever had.
Okay.
He's just so mobile.
Yeah.
You're so agile.
Yeah. You have a standing desk. He's got a standing desk.
I'm in my kitchen. I'm standing. I'm walking. I need to be able to move, you guys.
Yeah, no,
I'm not. Look at you, sedentary. Your energy. Your energy is zero.
I feel like we're blowing it.
I know. When I saw the sing in the background, I was like, "Oh, he's cooking." Yeah, he's cooking. That's what.
If this starts going poorly, I'm doing the dishes. You know your podcast is bad if I'm doing the dishes.
Yeah, you're
while
multitasking.
we're recording.
Can you look over your shoulder? That's our clip.
Yeah, that's our clip. Special guest Jason Mantzoukas. Jason.
Dish man.
What?
Well, I mean, we're doing a podcast here, but no,
it's not good. Not a good show.
No, it's a bad one. But dishes are getting cleaned.
See, that's multitasking. That's efficiency. That's a guy who's been down this road before.
He knows this business.
He's like, I've been on too many podcasts. Sometimes it's a roll of the dice.
Have you ever been
I've spent 15 years in this podcast game, baby.
Have you done a podcast where you mid-flight you're like, why am I here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially years ago when people weren't quite sure like what a podcast was or how it would go or what, it felt like because we've been doing How Did This Get Made for 15 years.
Wow.
And so
has it been that long?
Oh yeah, this year is our 15th year of How Did This Get Made.
Congratulations, man.
So crazy.
That's
crazy.
So awesome.
But in those first years, this is before there was a podcast app, it really was small. And so the other podcasts would invite you on and be like, oh, you got to come on, be on our podcast. And then I'd go and be like, what the fuck is this? This is absolutely nuts.
So 15 years of podcasting, which makes you basically the Lewis and or Clark of podcasting.
Yeah. Truly.
Yeah.
Like there was a couple that were before us that were very much like, Marin had started WTF like the year before, and Ackerman had started Comedy Bang Bang, and like maybe also a year before or something like that. So there was certainly stuff going, but nothing. There was no infrastructure. There was we weren't monetizing. There was not for nothing. There was no video. What you guys are doing right now, having a video component in a studio with professional looking stuff. Everything we did felt like we were going to like the back room at a weed dispensary controlled by the Armenian mafia so that we could sit in an empty room and talk into like shitty microphones.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
amazing.
But the show you've done with Paul and June, How Did This Get Made is really, I mean, there's a reason it's been around as long as it's been around. Who came up with the idea? I don't even know. And I know you guys.
We were at a party, like there was some party at somebody's house, and it was all comedians, and the talk at the dining room table, everybody was kind of sitting at the table, and the talk turned to, everybody realized almost all of us had just in the last few days seen Wall Street 2 Money Never Sleeps.
Okay.
The Wall Street sequel starring Shia LaBeouf, and it was just a bloated, chaotic mess. Yeah. And for like 2 full hours, the funniest people we all know were just riffing off of what we had seen, right? Just the conversation that you would have about like being like, oh, right, and then remember this, and oh, whoa. And then as we were literally leaving the party, because Sheer and I had been talking about this podcast and this new thing, and what do you think about this? And I said to him as we were walking away, I was like, that would just happen, like us and our funny friends talking about a bad movie. That's a podcast. Yeah. I would listen to just that, you know. And then I don't know, a month or two later, Sheer emailed me and was like, "Hey, remember that thing you said? Let's do that."
That's awesome.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, genuinely,
I love when it comes
very organic.
Yes, I was just gonna say, I love when it comes about very organically like that. That's
and
awesome.
and I think part of the joy of it, or part of, I mean, not the joy, but also part of the longevity of it, I should say, is the joy with which we all feel when we have seen a movie, the collective experience of seeing something that didn't live up to our expectations, and then talking with our friends at the bar or at dinner or wherever afterwards and just going in on it. And that is something that I feel like, without really like foregrounding it, that thing we do and we love doing is so much of what our audience loves doing as well. So that hitting on that was huge, and we couldn't have planned for it. It just was, like I said, very organic to the moment.
100%. 100%. It's almost like the nomenclature, like you don't even realize it. Like, I know I speak in movie quotes often.
Oh yeah.
And it just becomes part of the vernacular, it becomes part of what you do, and the lexicon of the it just becomes part of it all, right? And you don't even realize it, but you talk in movie quotes, and your friends know what you're talking about. You know, they know the movie, they know the quote, they know the, and if you can put it into a conversation or a bit, it always plays. And same thing when it has that familiarity, about it. So when you sit down to talk about movies and riff on it or rip on it or whatever you're going to do about it,
or both, because some of the best movies that we do are not just so bad that we're like, oh, get a load of this. Yeah. It becomes pure joy to watch this thing either go off the rails or watch how it indulges in its weirdness or its badness or, all versions of it. Because we're watching movies that feel like, like The Room or like The Miami Connection, truly feel like hobby movies that a person has made in their free time, all the way to like we talk about like every Gerard Butler movie that's ever been made because they're all stone cold bananas. You know,
I love London Is Falling.
Incredible. The whole Has Fallen trilogy. Darren,
I love it. It's so much fun. It's fun.
Yes.
Hey, do you remember that movie Shoot 'Em Up?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
That's in that kind of vein where it's
very similar.
It's pre-John Wick, John Wick.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just bullets and awesomeness. And that's it.
It's just chaos. It's
totally.
Like the Has Fallen trilogy, I think, is truly one of our best modern trilogies.
I agree with you.
Everybody's talking about how great Dune is. Get fucked, Dune.
Yeah,
you're my favorite. That's it. Get fucked, dude.
So let me ask this: when as a audience member or a fan, when you talk about these movies, you've obviously seen them, but do you actually like go back and rewatch it and take notes and like?
I take notes.
Okay.
I don't. Well, I should.
Because you guys have such a great level of detail and such a great level of recall. And so you find such wonderful, like, oh shit, I didn't even notice that, or oh my god, that is super weird, or whatever.
Yes.
Like, so I didn't know.
And
if you went back.
the best is when all three of us realize we've all written the same thing down, especially if that thing is particularly weird. Yeah. Like, hey, did you notice? I'll say like, or June will say, did you notice the stuffed animal on her desk at work? And we'd all be like, yes. What was up with that? Like, why? Like we get sucked into the minutia a lot because a lot of the reason that the movies aren't working is kind of obvious. Oh, this is bad casting, or this is a bad script, or blah blah blah. We could talk about that, but where it starts to really get juicy and fun is when you're like, why is this how they thought it was appropriate to say, this is how she is at work. Yeah. This is her comfort zone at home. Like, why, like all the ways things are decorated, all the choices, wardrobe choices, everything is like our notes. They always want us to like, people come to us and want us to like write a book or want us to do this or that. And I'm always like, the only book I think we should ever put out is a book that is just the chaotic notes that we take during because they make no sense. Yeah. And they're all just jumping off points for what I think is absolutely insane.
Well, I also wonder too, because like you were just pointing out, like a stuffed animal on someone's desk or whatever. I always wonder too, like, was that an actor's choice, a director's choice, or was that set design their personal picadillo that they glance at the script and said, you know what, I think this would be appropriate, and they put it in there, and no one challenges it. Like
totally
to try to break that down is always a good conversation.
And that the actor arrives and is like, oh, wait a minute, I've worked on a character. Is this where she works? I now have to re-examine this. This is weird. It's like when you go in for a fitting and they've pulled wardrobe for you that's like, whoa, is this what you guys think the character is? Because I'm not picturing this at all.
Right.
Does it ruin movie watching for you? Watching with the perspective of putting a podcast together, can you just put Lord of the Rings on and go, I want to just chill
and enjoy?
Absolutely. But I will say, I have like through like psychological behavioral conditioning. If I'm watching something and something absurd or confusing happens on screen, I have an immediate impulse to make a note. Like I'm like, there are times when I will grab my phone as if to say, I got to make a note of that. And I'm like, whoa. I'm not watching this for the podcast.
Right.
I'm here enjoying this movie. Like
I'm
I remember going to
experiencing it. Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't recognize or realize or anticipate that a bad movie is going to befall you. So like I went with a couple of friends to see Napoleon in theaters, the recent Napoleon, the Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix, which I thought was not good. And I kept having the urge to pull my phone out in the theater to be like, what about all these hats? Like truly thinking of jokes and thinking, oh, I got to talk about this, and being like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
I'm only receiving this movie.
That's amazing. That's why I think I would have a hard time just
detaching
if that was my thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've conditioned myself to negatively is, and I'm curious about you guys because I also think it's an age thing. At a certain point about, 10, 12 years ago, I turned on closed captioning to watch something and have never turned it off.
I almost have to have it on now. And I try to go, you know what? Let me just see what the dialogue sounds like with no words. And I watch and I go, I miss the words.
Yes.
I miss reading
and
it.
now when I'm at the theater, when I'm in the movies, I've conditioned myself so much that I'm looking at the bottom of the screen. I'm looking for my words. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? This is a beautiful image, a constructed image that hundreds of people worked so hard to give me. And I'm just like, can you put the words at the bottom so I can read this movie, please?
Where's the black box? Where is the black box?
You're not alone. You're not alone. I have my closed captioning on. As a matter of fact, last night, I was watching I Think You Should Leave, the Tim Robinson show.
Incredible.
Great show, and I love him. But I was watching with my son, and he goes, what? He goes, Dad, you got to turn this caption on. It's getting in the way. I was like, huh? What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you become so blind to it, and you'll see some of the shows. Sometimes, like I'll be watching a show, and there'll be a chyron on the screen. It'll be like Law and Order, and it'll be like bum bum, and it'll be like 23rd precinct, 63rd and 11th, blah blah blah. There's all this information. When that happens, the closed captioning gets bumped up or gets bumped over, and so sometimes I'll be watching, and it'll be like all the closed caption will be over the characters' faces, and I'll be like, the image is severely compromised by this, but I will not turn it off.
Is that because you enjoy? What do you think that is? Is it because is it harder to keep up, or is it just you appreciate seeing the words? It keeps you in the story.
It's just habit. It's now it helps me internalize the. You're right. It helps me keep track of the story. Yeah. I think that I'm hearing it and I'm reading it, so I must be really receiving this story. Yes. But I'm like losing huge components of the acting.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, let's say I'm watching a Rob Riggle on an episode of Elsbeth, the King's fantastic show. Elsbeth Tassioni is investigating a murder, and there's my guy Rob Riggle, and it takes me minutes to realize it's him because I'm just looking at I'm only seeing his feet. And I'm like, wow, that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
I gotta look up.
That voice sounds familiar.
Have you? Forgive me for not knowing. Have you done an episode of Law and Order?
Never.
Would you?
And it's like, what? Oh, I would love to do an episode of Law and Order.
See, I thought that too. I got an episode of Law and Order. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, this is happening.
Yeah.
I've wanted to do. It's like one of those iconic things.
Sure.
Like, you know, a check in the box, and it was a big role. I was going to be the main bad guy, right?
Wow.
Was it which Law and Order was it?
It was.
Tell me it was
like,
Criminal Intent.
It was the most recent with Mariska Hargitay, I believe it was.
Okay, SVU.
SVU.
Yeah, SVU.
Got it.
But the problem was, I was so not comfortable with the script. I was playing. They wanted me to play, just a really hideous person, and I
So
knew,
a Rob Riggle type.
Yes.
So
too close to home.
But the thing was, I knew if I committed to it, which that's the only way you can do it, right? You know, is
Yeah.
play it to the hilt. I really, because it was a really awful human, and I thought, well, that this might stick in people's minds, and and I just didn't want to be that person.
So
I didn't
you
wanna be that
hold
person.
record.
So I didn't take it. I know.
Wow.
I know.
That's.
And I've wrestled with that one too,
do
because I'm
you
like,
do you have regret?
yeah, I mean, there's times when because I love the show. I'm a huge fan of the show, and
Sure.
I've been for as long as I can remember. But that role was so hideous that I couldn't do it.
That's tough. I get that. I've been rewatching. My Law and Order is original Law and Order. The Michael Moriarty that then becomes Sam Waterston, like the Benjamin Bratt and the Chris Noth. That like Law and Order Prime, and I've been
Was Jerry
rewatching
Orville or something?
Jerry Orbach was in
Orbach,
it.
yeah.
Baby's father from Dirty Dancing, of course. But so I've been rewatching that, and what's so fun is that show has existed for like 20 plus years, right? On and off. So you're watching. So there are characters who appear like you're seeing, like Dylan Baker, for example. The actor Dylan Baker appears in an episode early on as a just recently graduated from college. Him and his college friends have like committed a murder. I can't remember. And then I'll watch an episode like a week later from 15 years later, and Dylan Baker is now like a middle-aged man who is the attorney who's going up against them now.
Yes.
So you're watching people's entire careers unfold inside of various guest stars on Law and Order, and I'm truly devastated that I cannot point to a Law and Order that I was on and be like, oh, I wish I had played one of the first people, like one of the people who initially, like, just, like the people in the park who were like, no, come on, let's go over here. Oh my God, call 911. Like the person who's like
the
startled,
intro.
but I don't need to be the guest star. I just want to be like, I'll do anything. I'll be the guy who's like, I don't know, I fired him 2 months ago. He stopped showing up to work.
Who's your favorite character of all time in any Law and Order?
In any Law and Order, favorite character of all time? Great question. Sam Waterston, gotta be. Jack McCoy, I think, is one of the great long-running TV characters, I think. Jerry Orbach and Sam Waterston, I think, are both pretty, like, incredible. Mostly because they got such long tenures.
Yes.
Well,
I thought Sam Waterston was always captivating to me. I could listen to him because whether he was being somber, whether he was being sincere, whether he was being scared, whether he was being angry, he had a way of pulling you in always. What's
also incredible, truly incredible about that show specifically is that they are able to do all that work as actors to bring you into their like internal lives without ever having storylines that are about them.
Right.
All of their storylines are in service of that week's case. Yeah. So it's never about unearthing or excavating Jack McCoy's personal past. His emotions are tied to the injustice of this case. And that's what a trick. What an incredible thing to do, to be able to do.
Every now and then. So my favorite character of all time, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Sure. Criminal Intent.
Criminal Intent. Like he's too good and weird and quirky and awesome and smart. But and every now and then they would dive into his sort of his appointments with his psych.
Yeah.
And so they touched on that stuff. But I just thought I still think he's
it's just
awesome.
the right touch, just the right sprinkling of weirdness.
It's so it's almost like he's like this alchemist who's like pulling like Minority Report, with no screen.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe.
I remember when I first moved to New York. I mean, early, like within a month.
What year?
Or two.
When did you move to New York, Rob?
It was August of '97.
Okay.
August
Yep.
of 97. So I think it would have been October then of 97, literally 2 months after I moved there. I was walking to I don't even know what it was, probably a New York sports club or a Equinox. No, it definitely wasn't Equinox.
Some sort of bodega.
I didn't have any money. So I was walking to and they were filming on the street.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was it was Watterson.
Yeah.
And whoever his assistant DA was, and so they were walking up the street, and I thought, well, that's it. I'm in the big leagues now. This is New York City. You know?
I'll tell you the one for me that was that. I arrived in New York City maybe 7 or 8 months later. So I arrived in spring of 98.
Okay.
And I'm walking on the street in the West Village, just like walking around, just truly, I'm like 2 weeks in New York, just this pure discovery mode.
Yes.
And walking by me on the street is Yoko Ono.
No
and I was
way.
like, what's happening? Like what, how, just going about doing her business.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is a city where just going and walking around, there's Yoko Ono. This is crazy.
That can
and
happen.
Then a couple of weeks later, my parents came to visit me, and my parents were like very nervous about me living in the city and blah, blah, blah. And we walked out of like a building in like the 50s in like a theater district, very nice area. And there was a guy like fully pants down around his ankles, like wiping his ass with like napkins from a Sbarro.
Yeah.
And my parents looked at me like, this is exactly what we're afraid of. And I was like, but I could just take you to where Yoko Ono. Like why couldn't this have been reversed?
It's so funny you say that, because I remember I was taking a level 1 UCB class. This would have been with Ian Roberts. It was at Dick Shea Studios on 14th and 6th. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't even have a theater really. They were renting space, you know, to run their classes. And I had come out, and you know, if you're not from New York City, you just don't know until you know. And that was a great sentence, by the way.
That was I was like, man, that's a top-notch sentence.
Yeah, I put that together myself. But I walk out of Dick Shea's on 14th and 6th, and I'm going to the subway stop, and there's a crowd, a general kerfuffle. And I'm like every other New Yorker, what's going on? What's going on? I look over, and sure enough, I see a peanut vendor swinging his spatula, trying to keep this homeless person who is in a white sweatsuit and has defecated all over themselves, and then smeared the defecation all over themselves. It was all over their hands, and they were trying to touch the peanuts, and he was defending his peanut stand. And of course, the crowd was being super helpful by screaming, "Kill him! Kill him!"
Right.
Fuck that! You know, just it was a pandemonium, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it's so disgusting and so sad and so many terrible things that you wouldn't believe it's true unless I had seen it. If someone else told me that, I would have been like, "Nah, you're exaggerating." It was
and
bad or whatever.
You're watching that, but you're also watching the dozens of people who are walking right by it with the energy of like, ugh, I'm late.
Yeah.
Why is this holding me up?
Yes. What is your problem, dude? I gotta go.
Why is cripplingly sad humanity crumbling getting in the way of me getting to my level 1 class?
It's crazy.
But you get it. You see that, right? And then you're like, oh God, I'll never see that again, I hope. But that just happened.
Yeah.
That's New York. And you never knew what you were going to get. And there was a lot of great moments too, obviously. I wouldn't trade a minute of my New York time. It was 10 of the best years of my life. Absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So,
the people I met, the struggle,
especially
the
that
chasing.
early era. We also got to be a part of like you said, like when we started taking classes and performing, UCB didn't even have a theater yet. They didn't. It felt very much like the beginning of a thing that we then got to be a part of. Its like explosive growth, and how incredible! Like what an incredible thing to be a tertiary part of.
Yes, I always think that's one of the biggest blessings of my life was that I got in at the UCB when the getting was good, so to speak.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, that'll never happen. That was a moment in time.
It was a moment in time. It was a wonderful,
truly
wonderful moment. Just like the SNL 75 cast. You know, they were the right people at the right time, and they got this wonderful opportunity. Same thing with the UCB, because they moved from theater to theater. They were trying to find their home. They're trying to find their voice. The actual UCB members had their show on Comedy Central, but then they were obviously everybody was chasing the same dream, and it was such a supportive group. I always consider that such a wonderful thing.
I agree completely. It's such a supportive group, and you can see that like now in the fact that like we are doing Dinosaur Improv, like Dinosaur Improv, a group that we perform with monthly and tour the country with, is, I would say, 60 to 75% a group of people who've been performing together since the late 90s or early 2000s.
That's
it is
amazing.
These are people who we still love and enjoy. Like, I still do this podcast with Paul and June. Like, again, these are people, my show Soundtrack. These are all groups and all people that have been, working together for 20 plus years. Yeah. And whenever anybody has a TV show, and all of my most meaningful jobs, like on camera or writing jobs, were people from our peer group.
Yes.
Rob Corddry gets Children's Hospital on the air and is like, great. So now I'm hiring you guys to act. I'm hiring you guys to write. And was like, oh, yeah, great. Those jobs were essential, and they were all because, Corddry or Scott Armstrong or all these people turned around and were like, I'm getting an opportunity. Let me bring you with me.
Right. And also when you do comedy like we did with our group or the folks that we came up doing it with, you do it long enough. You're in the trenches for 7-8 years. You start to trust each other.
Sure.
You're like, I can count on this guy to deliver. I can count on this guy to play this character beautifully. I know this guy writes off the charts. You just kind of,
the mystery's gone.
Yeah. And it's great. It's wonderful because that the talent pool is phenomenal. Now, I got to tell you, Jason, we've known each other a long time, but there's a couple things I didn't know about you.
What do you got?
I found out. I want to know more. I want to know more about this Watson Fellowship.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
I'll talk about that. Yeah.
I didn't know about that, but that's pretty special, pretty cool. And then you got to go for a couple years and really do a deep dive into music.
Very much. Yeah, very much. So I came out of college with a religion major, but I had spent a lot of college playing music and doing music, and then
are you also a drummer?
I am a drummer. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So is Darren.
Me too.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's rad. That's rad. So I came out of school like thinking that I was going to be a drummer or be a comedian. Like those were the two things that I did. I was a religion major, but really what I cared about was the improv group that I was in, and that I was in with Jessica St. Clair and Rodney Rothman, a bunch of people, and all the bands that I was in the radio station that I ran. And so those were like the things. Performing in those two things were what I did a lot. And so my school is part of this group of schools that can award a Watson Fellowship, which is essentially a non-academic Fulbright. So it's like I proposed a project. I want to study music that is meant to bring about a state of union between the musicians playing it and the people in that group and something holy, God in some instances, or a God in other instances. Like all these different cultures, all these different countries have music, transcendental music usually, that is meant to put you into an ecstatic union with the holy. And so I lived in North Africa in the Middle East, studying music with all these people, recording music, talking to people about all this, going to shows, going to like at-home concerts that are like healing ceremonies for sick people, like really crazy, wild, insanely beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And I did that for 2 years.
Wow. So is it drums are so specific. Is it the rhythm and do you find yourself getting into a state?
Yes, it's a lot of repetitive rhythmic structures that are meant to kind of, so let's take, for example, in Morocco, there's something called a lila, which is like an all-night sundown to sunup ceremony that when there is a sick person, they will hire, the family will bring musicians and dancers, and all the people will come, and the musicians will play all of these songs that are meant to try and pinpoint in the sick person what is wrong with them by running through all of the different, essentially, this is very reductive and I'm reducing it to something that is just explainable, but basically playing all of the colors that correspond to different demons or different jinn that might be affecting the person.
Is that
might
when
be
you
making them sick.
Real quick, when you say colors, you were being like frequencies?
So they will play a song that is white, or they will play a song that is red. That has like the songs correspond to different colors. The colors correspond to different evils or different, malicious entities or feelings, as a way of exorcising those things from people. And people will fall into trances. It's very repetitive, very rhythmic, it's beautiful, it's incredible, but it's a whole night event. So stuff like that is what I was looking at.
That's fascinating.
So you went from that to Big Mouth.
I went from that. Yes, I went from that straight to New York to doing yes and improv with
Did you really go from the Middle East to New York straight link?
I mean, pretty much. I went straight. I was in the middle. I finished my project in Turkey. I came home for a couple of months and moved straight to New York and started UCB.
Wow.
Home was Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. I'm from like suburban Boston. Yeah.
I just moved to Maynard, Massachusetts.
Oh wow.
It's cold, Jason.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It's very cold.
He's a California boy. He's not used to the.
What brought you there?
A lady.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was tired of FaceTiming my girl.
Great.
I was like, I just want to really FaceTime you.
Yeah.
So I moved, and in fact, we're going to be moving out of that area to the middle of the country, probably Kansas City, shortly.
Boo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm experiencing your weather, and it's gnarly.
It really is. It's no joke. It's very, and I've now, after having lived here in Los Angeles for so many years, I now have no ability to withstand the cold. Like when I go home to visit my folks in Massachusetts or my sister in Maine, game over. Like when I go home for Christmas, I'm like, I can't go outside.
I know.
You know, my dad will be like, you want to go for a walk? And I'll be like, no, and you shouldn't either.
I was in Boston just a couple weeks ago for a documentary, and I walked outside and it made my face. It was so cold. The cold was as thick as a fog because I had to squint.
Yeah.
It was that painfully, the wind chill, the cold.
It'll rip right through you because it's coming right off the water. So it's like it is bracing.
Yeah.
It is. I never knew, because I'm born and raised here in California my entire life until a month and a half ago. I never knew how to properly layer up.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm shorts and t-shirt guy, maybe a hoodie, but now,
wow. Oh yeah, no way.
It's long underwear, shirt, long sleeve, jacket,
thick socks.
Oh God, it's
everything, Darren. Everything's got to be wool. All your base layers have got to be merino wool. Everything's got to be wool. If you're wearing cotton, you're a goddamn fool.
You're done. You're done. Cotton kills.
You're cooked. R.I.P. Hypothermia. R.I.P. Like just all you got to do is, if you want to know, just watch Alone. Just mimic what they do on Alone.
It is brutal. So how long have you been in Los Angeles?
I've been in Los Angeles since 2010, 2011, so 14, 15 years.
So you're an Angelino.
Oh yeah, no, I've been here now longer than I was in New York, which was always a measurement that I thought of as, well, that was my adult. I lived in New York for most of my adult years, and now I'm like, nope, not true anymore.
Can I jump around back to Big Mouth a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
So Jay, the character that you play.
Yes.
It's I don't even, words can't do justice. It's so good. It makes me go, that must be you. Because
it's not really. That's an interesting one. That one is, because that show is very much, a lot of the characters are based on, because Nick and Andrew, who created the show, are best friends. We're best friends in middle school. Uh-huh. So all of the main characters are kind of based on themselves and their other friends. So Jay is actually based on one of the guys they grew up with.
No way, because you do it.
I appreciate it,
and I'm buying it. I'm just saying it. It's crazy.
My contributions to Jay were that, because they had all of the magician stuff was somebody they went to middle school with. The fucking the pillows with the guy that there was a guy they went to school with who fucked pillows and did give them a whole "this is what you do" kind of thing. So all of that was already existing. Like the part that I feel like I contributed was that, and that I feel like this wasn't me, but this was a type of a household and a type of a kid that I knew very much growing up, which was at home. I feel like Jay's the kind of kid who never wears a shirt.
Right.
You know, who's just always just like going, just like going, and just like there's an element of chaos in that to me, which is like everybody should be able to be dressed. So that to me was very important to Jay's the neglect that Jay lives in is that he doesn't even know to wear a shirt.
Can't be bothered.
See, but what you just described, I think is what every great actor should approach. You should always approach your work that way. I think you have to, this is out there. This is common stuff. I'm repeating other people's stuff, but you should show up on time.
Take a knee, everybody. Take a knee. We're about to learn. We're about to learn.
You should show up on time. You should know your lines, and you should have an idea about what your character is and who he is, and bring your thought to it. And that's you just described that. So that's awesome.
My version of this guy is this. Am I right? I'm right because I think this, but like, is this the what you guys are thinking too? Because I'm thinking he's kind of like this.
Yeah.
Well, It's a pleasure to watch that. And, and I get a kick out of it. And
who do you get? What do you get the most? Do you get the League, the Dictator? Do you get Big Mouth? What do people come at you with the most? How did this get made? I'm sure that's got to be.
How did this get made? People are my favorite people to encounter in the wild because they are very polite. Podcast listeners are like, "Hey, I don't want to bother you. I love the show."
Yeah.
Or they'll say.
Nice.
They'll quote a specific episode or something like that, and then they're gone. They're because usually they're older and understand the dynamic. Now, that being said, the people that approach me the most from the beginning until now are League fans.
Yes, I was about to say that it has to be, right?
It's only League fans, and it is as if they act as if they have found like a wild animal wherever we are. Like they are like, whoa!
Yeah.
They never know my name. Thank God. I love if someone is like, oh, Jason Mantzoukas, I'm like, okay, this is a normal person.
Right.
But that's 10% of fan interactions. Mostly it's and then it becomes like, oh, we got to buy you shots. And I'm like, I don't drink like that. I'm not the person you think I am.
Right.
You notice, if you will, I'm wearing a sweater with elbow patches and a blazer. Look at me very closely. I am holding a Kindle.
Yeah, not to them. Not to them. To them, you are in their fantasy league.
Oh, forget about it.
They quote you every year for the rest of their lives.
They name their leagues after things that I've said as the character, and then when they ask me a football specific that I do not know because I know nothing about football. You've never seen adult men more disappointed than being like, "Hey, man, who should I start this weekend?" And I'm like, "Who's playing?"
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't know. Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann. That's the last time. It's the last time I knew a football player's name.
You actually wounded them. You wounded them. Yeah.
They're like, whoa, really?
Whoa.
And I'm like, acting, baby.
Hey, da. Hey, you know what? I don't mean to be a dick.
Yeah.
We're getting the high sign. I'm serious.
Hey, Jace.
What's up, baby?
Thank you.
Dude.
This has been so much fun. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing I love learning the new stuff too, man. I was so blown away. I thought the Watson Fellowship, that is a very cool, and what you did with it
was cool.
Was amazing.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
it was awesome. It was I will say, like, truly a foundational element of my life. Those 2 years of learning and figuring out how to exist and how to thrive and how to succeed while just on my own traveling was cool. Incredible, and really gave me a foundation for everything else.
I'm sure it made you independent and made you strong at that age. That's a key age for that. So anyway, listen, man, as always, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
this was great to meet you, Darren.
You too.
We'll see you soon, bud.
Take care, dude. Dude, that guy.
He's all energy, man. He's so good. He's so talented. He's so funny. He's so quick-witted. I mean, I do improv with him. We do the dinosaur show together down at Largo.
Right.
Okay, in Los Angeles. We do it once a month. Come check it out. We're also on the road every now and then. But he operates at a high tempo, and he always delivers, man. Always delivers.
It's fascinating. He's so fast, but he stands, and I I noticed that right out of the gate. He's just that guy.
Yeah. Well, there is something about being on your toes.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the phrase probably comes from. Be on your toes. Be on your toes.
He's very.
That's why those
funny.
standing desks are also very popular. Not only are you burning calories, but you're staying engaged.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll get one of those for the studio.
Get a standing desk. Quit dicking around.
God, I'm sorry.
Just stop. Stop messing around and get serious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right? Well, I'm just tired. You always talk about, I'm going to get a standing desk, and then you never do. You sit your ass down like right here.
This is the year.
Is this it? Is this?
I'm tired of hearing myself say it to you.
All right, Gary, mark it down. Somebody note the date and the time, please.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Damn it.
We always had it.
So close, though. We were so close on that one. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Riggle.
I'm Darren Leader.
And as for Gary and Claire in the booth, thanks for joining us on Riggle's Picks.